Hey there, YouTube. My name is Jamal Carter, and this is my first ever video, so excuse the poor video quality. We all start somewhere, right? So, again, my name is Jamal Carter, and um, I wanted to start this channel as a way to, get some discussions going and also to partake in discussions because I watch YouTube channels all the time in which there's so many people talking about what I'm interested in, but I have no way of interacting with them. It would be cool to be able to, help bridge some gaps in the community and just, push some of these topics of discussion to the forefront of public discourse because they are definitely important. And the topics that I would like to discuss, I'm going to be talking about a wide range of things from psychodynamics, maybe from a Jungian perspective, to alternate modes of consciousness in society and lucid dreaming and all of these different things with the intention of planting the seeds for growth. I engage in these different things to grow as a person, and my experience with them has shown me that perhaps other people would find these things useful if more people were aware. And I'm aware that there's plenty of channels out there that are already covering these topics, but sometimes, you know, it's not just the content that's being discussed, but you kind of have to vibe with the personality that is disseminating the information. So, hopefully, I'll have the opportunity to connect with some of you wonderful people to talk to you about these things. Okay, so to give you a little bit of background as to what got me interested in these things, well, like many of you, since young, I always felt like something was missing. And it just sent me off into this journey. I always felt like I was searching for my soul. I know that sounds dramatic, but that's just what it felt like. Like there was just this lingering question that just was just in my heart, and I was just trying to find the answer that would fill that void. And the different methods that I've tried, is like I've read a lot, and that was like my main mode when I was younger. I was reading a lot about, you know, society and the effects of industrial civilization on the biosphere and the consequences of that, you know, for our species and a host of others. Like I started reading about these things about when I was in high school, so a little over a decade ago. I'm 27 now. And it's just interesting because I was searching from without for so long that I eventually kind of gave up hope. And that manifested in like a deep depression and it like a feeling of impending doom and just anxiety and all of these different, really negative manifestations. Um and it eventually got to a point where I gave up, and somehow I started to read like spiritual books, and I never had a concept of spirituality. I grew up as a Christian, but I got to a point where I'm like, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but um so, I eventually let go of that as a child, and yeah, so I was just naked and nihilistic, and I surprisingly found that through reading different spiritual texts, I was inspired to look within. It's not that they gave me answers, they inspired me to look within and to engage in practices like meditation. And that is what changed my entire life. So, it is that's the reason why I wanted to to like start this conversation because I want to help again bring these things to the forefront of discussion. All right, so before I let you go, I guess I'll tell you about an experience I had that kind of awakened my mind to the reality, the dynamic nature of the psyche. So, growing up, I've always had a strong moral compass because I'm very sensitive. You know, I was always trying to be the good boy, doing good things for this good world. But, I mean, yeah, that's naive, but I grew up just with a sense of duty to try to make things better for people. So, you know, I just conditioned myself to think good and bad, and I would hear people confirm it like, oh, you're such a good person. Oh, those are bad people. You know, good, bad. And it shaped my psychology. So it was interesting because one night, I forget how old I was, but one night I was just rolling up some weed and I was just smoking and just thinking about my life, and I was just like, wow, you know, even though I come from this particular background and I've had all these different struggles, look at what a good person I'm becoming. The weird part was when I said that to myself, and this is all subvocally in my head, it felt like something snapped. And then I started to get all of these visuals of all of the fucked up things I've done. You know, I mean, like the times I was mean to people, the times where I like harbored bitterness in my heart. Like even if I were giving someone my last, just the reluctance, you know, just giving begrudgingly and all of that, like it just flickered across my mind just at a million miles per second, like. And the crazy thing about it is it came to a point where it felt like again something popped, and it was like I started to hear voices. Okay, so my first thought was my shit was laced. That was my first fucking thought. And I was like, okay, I'm starting to hear something that, and I'm not willing this. I'm just gonna go in the house. Mind you, it's about 2 a.m. You know, I was just smoking a personal blunt, but I go in the house and I lay down, and then I go from hearing one voice going, ooh, to hearing like 3 of them going, ooh. And it was weird because they all had different tones and pitches and rhythmic patterns in their voices, and they all sounded different from my voice that I use. So I'm freaking the fuck out at this point. And then next thing you know, it sounded like a whole orchestra. I mean, it sounded like there were thousands of people with different voices all crying in unison. So I'm like, okay, I'm just high, just let it pass, just let it pass. And then I start to see something popping up in my visual field that looks like a face. It's not clearly a face, but it reminds me of sort of like, I don't know if you've ever seen the first Exorcist movie. Yeah, you remember those moments where that weird face would just pop out of nowhere and it would just look weird, like that weird, yeah, that shit's creepy, right? It kept popping up in my visual field. So I'm hearing all this shit and seeing all this shit. I didn't know what the fuck to do, so my dumb ass ends up putting on my fucking sweatpants, sliding on my slides. I don't have a shirt on. I run out of the house and I run to the police department because I'm freaking the fuck out. Fucking stupid, I know, but I was in an altered state. So I saw one police officer about to leave. I don't know if it was end of shift or what. I'm like, sir, I need help. He just looks at me and he just, yeah, right, and he just walks off. So I'm freaking the fuck out. I call 911 and I'm like, yo, I need help. I'm tripping balls. They're like, okay, stay where you are. And I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting there in front of the police department just freaking out. And I'm just like, it dawns on me. I'm like, I called the police on myself. What the fuck? Why would me, a black man, call the police on my goddamn self? I don't care what's going on. Why would I do that? So then I run off like a fucking idiot into the dark. And I hear helicopters and shit. And I'm like, oh my God, they're looking for me. And I'm still seeing this shit pop up, flitter across my visual field. And there's like weird shit was happening, like the lights, the lampposts. I mean, the street lights started just like flickering, and I would see like raccoons run out of nowhere, and I'm like, the fuck? I've never seen raccoons in this area, And yeah, just weird shit started happening, and I was having weird, distorted thoughts. So then I said, fuck it. Like, I called 911, and I was like, yo, I'm tripping balls, and they're like, where are you, sir? We went to where you were, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna stay here, and I tell them where I am. Two EMTs pull up, and they like get me on the gurney, and I get on willingly. But it was weird because as they put me on, I started to feel like I was on some Truman show or something. I started thinking, and I was talking to him like, oh, this is all Big Brother, and this is all a part of the military industrial pharmaceutical complex, and oh, you guys are just playing the part, and this and that and this and that. And they were just cool. They were just like, dude, you're just tripping balls, like, you're gonna be fine, we got you. So it eventually pops into my head. I'm like, I'm gonna end up in a psych ward in a straitjacket, unable to do anything for my family. That's what really tripped me out. I was like, I wasted my life, I lost my mind, and now I cannot help my family. And that is when I was like, I need to get the fuck out of here. Even in this state, I can still somehow use myself to somehow help my family. So I get up and I'm like, I gotta help my family. And I like go to the door, and oh yeah, so they didn't strap me down. EMT rookie mistake 101, especially if there's a psych patient. But anyways, I run to the door and I'm like, I gotta go help my family. And they're like, no, don't do it. Don't open the door. And I'm like, I gotta go. And they're like, ah. But then I was like, I can't end up in a straitjacket in a psych ward. And they're like, we're not taking you there. We're just taking you to the hospital. So I'm like, all right, I just lay the fuck down and I just submit. I just submit to the moment. What happens is they reel me into the fucking hospital. And the EMTs are like, hey man, if we ever see you again, we gotta go get tacos so we can laugh about this. Cause trust me, you're gonna laugh about this later. They were cool as shit. Oh, and the funny thing is, they put two sandwiches on me, and they were like, trust me, you're gonna need those, bud. Have a good one. And what happened is I just slept on that gurney in the hallway. And eventually my dad comes to pick me up. He asks no questions. I know he was probably like, what the fuck? I don't even want to fucking know. Let's just go home. And man, that $1,000 bill I got for this shit, I was like, fuck. I don't know what my dad did to make it go away, but he worked some kind of magic, because there was no way we could afford that. But, okay, that's the story, but this is how I came to the reality of psychodynamics. So I feel that what happened was, oh, mind you, I told my friend what happened. He wanted the rest of the weed that I had. He smoked it, had no problem. So it definitely wasn't laced. And all he did was smoke weed. He didn't dabble in anything else. So it was just weed. I mean, there's a possibility that it's just interacted with my neurochemistry in a weird way. But I feel that the message here for me was, I had spent so much of my life looking at life in this black and white way, as this or that, good or bad. Only two possibilities. And in doing that and seeing myself as either good or bad, I was denying the reality of all of these other, I guess, sub-personalities that exist as the amalgam of my total personality. And I feel that this altered state sort of gave these sub-personalities voice. It gave them voice. and I was able to hear them. And the crazy thing is, following that experience, after recognizing all of the bad that I had done, I recognized that I am multidimensional. I cannot be put into good or bad. And in fact, many of the things that I perceive as good can be bad for others, you know? I mean, this stuff is not, it's like reality just cannot be so easily compartmentalized into either or just categories, period. And from then on, I started to recognize all of these different aspects of myself and did a lot of journaling. And I now live a more integrated lifestyle. It's much more integrated, much more accepting, and I feel like I'm able to vibe with people because the judgment, the inner judge that was once deeply embedded has been uprooted and thrown out. So now I can have more genuine relations with people. And I mean, that's just a smidgen of what kind of introduced me to the reality of psychodynamics. But yeah, so this is just to give you a taste of what kind of things I'm going to talk about. Again, I'm going to talk psychodynamics, alternate modes of consciousness, society, psychedelics, my experiences with them. Not saying that I'm condoning uses of psychedelics, and I mean, I don't do them anymore, but I've done plenty in the past in a place where it was totally legal. All right. So just wanted to make that clear. And yeah, so looking forward to talking to you guys and discussing more of these things. So yeah, feel free to hit me up. And yeah, looking forward to a wonderful relationship.